What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy back with another one. People, in today's video, we want to discuss the truth about townships in South Africa. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holler. People, townships in South Africa were created primarily to dispossess land from black people and colored people. It was to make sure that they don't get land anyway, especially not in and around the CBD and the fertile lands, the best views, and all that. So they were relocated to the outskirts and to the not so beautiful sides of the country, of the cities, right? So primarily, these places were left to be desolate and places of almost hellish kind of environments, right? But the funny thing is, what the apartheid government thought at the time of being these hellholes, the people in those townships then created these environments from which they could thrive. So hellholes became paradises almost. Now, why am I saying paradises when everyone knows what a typical township would look like, right? So let's start at the beginning of what townships are in South Africa. So townships were built, small matchbox houses and 1, 2 bedrooms, toilet in the kitchen, just enough for, in fact, just enough for a husband, a wife, and a child or two, right? Not more than that. But as black people, as Africans, we have big families. So we had to all squeeze into these matchbox houses, right? And it was hell on earth because we were moved from where we used to live in these big places, big houses, open spaces, into these confined little boxes. And then out of that, people had to now find ways to extend these homes to accommodate the extended family and the growing families, right? So up came these shacks, hokies, as we call them, or hokie. Then there were those who were unfortunate not to get houses, or like the demand for jobs drove people to the cities, and there was not enough housing, not enough land that the government could actually build houses on, right? So the influx was just too much. So people decided to take matters in their own hands and just started erecting shacks all over the place. Well, not all over the place, but in those designated townships. And the government actually really didn't care, really, because as long as it was happening on the fringes, out of sight, out of mind, they didn't care. Right. So that's how you get the sprawling townships of shacks. And it grew and grew and grew to what it is today in all the townships. So if you go to most townships, if not all townships, right, you will get to side where these houses, brick houses, well, not brick, but concrete block houses, right? Those were mainly built during the apartheid era. And then obviously there are some where the government actually did build, the ANC government, but the majority were built during the apartheid government era. And the shacks also came up during the apartheid government era, but it wasn't as many as they are today, because today, obviously, the population, influx of foreigners. So there's a whole lot of things that go into why these sprawling shacks are there now, right? So, like I said initially, these places were meant to be hellholes for the black people and colored people, right? But this time, specifically, on the focus mainly on the black people, because in the colored community, the shacks are not as prevalent as they are in the black communities. Like, for example, Kal- Kailicha is probably Cape Town's biggest township, right? And there are a lot of shacks in Kailicha. Sure, dude, a lot of shacks, right? Whereas if you go to Mitchell's Plain, there are shacks, but they are not as sprawling. There's more houses in Mitchell's Plain than there are shacks. Whereas I think in Kailicha, there's more shacks now than there are houses because there's an entire section of Kailicha where there's just shacks going on for days and beyond what the eye can see. You know what I mean? So, and there's because of space problems and space, the lack of space, right? People are now building on the sidewalk, right next to the road. I mean, that's how crowded Kailicha is now, right? Then we get to places like Danun. Danun, one side got houses and plus shacks next to the railway line. Then you get to what you call side 5, where it's just sprawling with shacks, no housing structures, it's just shacks on the other side. You know what I mean? So the shacks is a real big problem. Okay, now these places were meant to be hellholes, but over time, the people accepted their fate that this is where they were meant to be, this is their fate, they're going to have to make it work. So they started creating entertainment venues for themselves. They started creating businesses for themselves. So then the township became what the government did not want it to become, a bustling economy and a bustling economic hub. And these people started thriving, which was not what the government actually wanted. So the township was supposed to be a hellhole, is now like a paradise. When I say a paradise, you might think that I'm making a mockery of townships because of all the social ills and the living conditions and that, right? On the surface, when you're looking at a township, you'll just be like, oh man, how can people live like this? Oh man, open sewers, drainage systems, litter, paper, the, I don't know, scavenging dogs, just dirt, filth, and then it hits you that actually the people that reside there actually want it like that. Well, they don't want the open sewer system, the problem with the drainage, with the litter, that. No, they don't want that. What I'm simply saying is they want the cheap, classy lifestyle. Right. Now, I'm not saying they want to open things, they want to let, they want to do it, and nah, they don't want that. That government needs to provide services and get rid of those things. Now, I'm just talking about the structure of township life. People from the outside world who look at it and think that you would aspire to get out of those living conditions. If you live in that township, you'd aspire to get out of there and move to the burbs. But I can tell you now, there's a good number, a great number of people who'd move from a shack type setup, right? They'd move, they probably wouldn't even move, depending on where the shack is built. If it's built next to the curb or to the railway line, then obviously they'd aspire to move into a house. Or if they could, they would build a house there where they are. But then the shacks are so close to each other that you can't even build anything, right? The ones that are close to the road and that, right? So what these people do is they don't aspire to leave the township. What they aspire to do is get money, try and buy a house in the township, extend it, put a flat at the back, and they make money while still living in the township. Now, those that have achieved this momentous um, event, or this momentous, what can I call it? Um, Achievement, right? They are living Kasi celebrity style. Because not only is the Kasi cheap, these townships provide everything that these people possibly would want. I mean, okay, let's look at it like this. let's say it's a typical example, right? Let's say you own taxis, 5, 10 taxis, right? You're living in Kailicha or Denun, Nyanga Langa, or Google it, right? You're living in the township, right? You started off living in a shack next to a railway line, right? You managed to hustle, get some money, right? Saved up, went to go and rent a house. Staying in the same township, but now you moved from a shack, you moved into a concrete house. Then you offer the owner to buy the house. And then the owner says, yeah, well, okay, it's cool. I'll sell you the house and then I'll go back to Eastern Cape or KwaZulu Natal, wherever they come from. You take over that house. That house got a yard, right? May not be big, but it's got a yard. And what do? You build a block of flats in that yard. Now you're renting out the flat. Now you're renting out the flat and you're renting out the house. Then what does he do? He goes back to the shack. Now he's renting out the house and the flat. And he's got maybe 1 or 2 shacks also in that yard where it cannot accommodate more building structures. Then you add shacks for space. Now you're utilizing all the space in the yard. So now that yard is fully rented out, right? Now remember, you've got taxis, you're renting out a house, and you've got a block of flats, and you've got like 2, 3, 4 shacks in the yard. This person is living what we call ghetto hood celebrity style because he's getting money from all directions, from taxis to the house, from the flat, from the shacks. Now, this person does not aspire to go and live in the burbs because that would be money coming out of his pocket. Whereas in the township, that's all money coming in. He's living rent free. Now, the money he's getting, he's sending it back home to the Eastern Cape, where he's actually building a villa for the family, right? Now, on the outset, from the outside looking in, you would think someone living in a shack is like, oh man, these people are struggling, they're suffering. No, not all. Yes, there are people who are struggling. Yes, there are people who are suffering. Yes, there are people who are thugging it out. Yes, but there's also a good number of people that are not struggling as the way you'd assume. If you go into some of these shacks, there's flooring, tiles, there's wallpaper. On the outside, it's a shack. But when you get in the inside, I promise you, there's air conditioning, there's fans, there's solar, there's satellite dishes, there's Netflix, there's Showmax, there's you name it. They've got it. Double door fridges, big screen TVs, sofas, the works, depending on the size of the shack, right? Some shacks even have yards. Those are the ones that actually, when they get money, they actually bash down the shack and actually build a house there. And then they actually build flatlets or flats, whatever you want to call it. Do you see what I mean? So not everyone in the township is struggling. So just because someone says to you, I live in Kailicha, doesn't mean that person is struggling financially. And just because someone is living in Bishop's Court or Sea Point, and you think, those people are rich because they're living in Sea Point. No, people, it doesn't work like that. So the township, from the surface, from the outset, you're looking at all these open sewer problems and all these latent, then you just think, man, these are the forgotten people, and these people are struggling financially, got nothing, no food. People, there are people that are living in the township. It's just unfortunate that most townships, they don't do these Uber Eats and because they get robbed and stuff like that. But if Uber Eats and if Uber used to really go into the townships, could go into the townships, you'd actually see the number of people that are able to live that first world life in the Kasi, right? Now, you may agree with me or you may not agree with me, but there's a lot of people in the townships that do not aspire to move to the suburbs because for them, they see it as a loss of income, whereas in the township, it's a way of bringing in more income. They save more, they get to spend more on the things that matter most, other than paying rent and transport or lights or utilities, which they get to save. Next, we get into the pros of living in the township. Holler. People, the truth about living in the township and the pros of living in the township. Number one, things are cheaper. Number two, there's a sense of community. Number three, townships provide this hub of economic activity that even the suburbs and the other urban centers do not provide. Number four, townships, there's a certain code of conduct that you do not have to prescribe to when you are in the townships. It's just the African way. It just works. You won't understand it unless you're in it. It just works. Number five, everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. Number six, the township got no laws that, like government laws, they don't apply in the township. It's like they live by their own ethics and codes of conduct. And there's nothing better than living life on your own terms. And that's what happens in the township. Most times, law and order is not that applicable and not that visible. Number six, electricity is basically almost free. If you know how to connect to the grid, you get someone and you connect it. Damn, you can't do that in the burbs. Number seven, pros of living in the man, like they always say in the townships, kumnandi ekasi. Man, there's nothing quite like a township life. Even white people crave to have that experience like township life. Like I'm saying, from the outset, it looks like it's a terrible way of living. But when you're in it, you get to see that it's a vibe. There is nothing like township life. Trust me, you will learn what true, real freedom means without worrying about police, law enforcement, or any other type of law abiding organizations or law enforcing organizations, should I say. Yeah, bro. And the last one, when you're living in the township, you are far removed from the realities of life. Most burb problems like rent and water bills, utilities, and all these headaches that come at the end of the month. Kasi life, those things are mostly not even sure. Unless you're renting from someone. Yeah, true. But if you have your own shack up, or you have your own house up, and dude, I don't know if people's lights ever switched off in the classes. I don't know. Like what happens in the burbs if you don't pay electricity bill? ESCOM, then they cut off electricity. I'm not saying they don't cut off electricity in the Kasi, but I've never heard of anyone that lives in the Kasi, like in a shack, coming and say, "Oh, ESCOM came in, they disconnected." I don't know, and if ESCOM has done such a thing, it happens like once or twice a year. But by the very next day, very few hours, the very minute that they leave, those connections are back on again. So why would I say no to such a good deal of free electricity? I mean, what? They don't. Water bill? What is that? Electricity bill? Who? For who? Those are the pros of living in the Kasi, man. If you know of any, please let me know in the comment section below. Next, we get into the negatives of living or the cons of living in Kasi in the townships. Holler. People, the cons of living in the townships. Number one, as we all know, is crime. Number one, townships are burdened with criminal activity. That's the biggest issue. And murder, rapes, house breakings, those top the list. Drug dealing, and the list is endless. Number two, dealing with crack dealers and drug dealers and crack addicts and drug addicts. People, the township is just awash with these people. And it's just, that would fall under crime, right? That's just too. Basically, if you have to weigh the pros and the cons, yes, the majority of the people in the townships are not directly affected by crime per se, like in a personal one-on-one stabbed or whatever. No, but they know of someone who has been affected by crime. That's how close they live. Or that's how close in proximity they are to crime levels. Do you understand what I mean? Given that
most people would rather live in the township, be wary of their surroundings, than to go and live in a quiet neighborhood, because it will just mess up, but it will just mess their minds up, because that hustle and bustle of country life is what they used to. So when you go to a quiet, leafy suburb, it will just feel like you are at a funeral parlor. And I think most people would just go back to the township and feel alive again, because even though there's crime, even though there's this freedom, this ambience, there's this loudness. You can just be you 24/7. You can play your music however loud you want, at whatever time of the day you want, at whatever time of the night you want, with no one calling the police to come and tell you to shut it down. You can smoke your weed in public. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing. Go try that in the burbs. Law enforcement, not visible, not applicable. They only come when they know that it's all over. What more can you say? What more would you want? Right? People, let me know if I was on the money with this one, or did I totally miss it with this one. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holla.